Hi everyone, I'm Avalon Cory and thank you for joining me today. So today I'm going to be talking you through a process that we've been going through in the last year at the University of Exeter in engineering. And this is our first year module, so I am module lead on a multidisciplinary challenge project, and I'm going to be talking to you today about how we've kind of adapted throughout the pandemic, the background kind of a module, how it was designed, and the impact that COVID has had, and then kind of a design sprint that we've created through this kind of pandemic and the outcomes and the impact that that's had on the students. So the title is Developing Student Confidence in Online Lo-Fi Prototyping Through an Online IDEO Design Sprint. So the module has been designed using gold standard project-based learning and design thinking. And here in the images you can kind of see the gold standard project-based learning 7 essential elements, which is what we always refer back to when we're kind of designing our module. So we take students through a journey of authenticity, student voice and choice, reflection, critique and revision, public product, challenging problem or question, and sustained inquiry. And the learning goals that come out of this kind of process is that they have key knowledge, understanding and success skills. And we really focus on building their 21st century skills and kind of creating graduates of distinction. So the updated engineering undergraduate programmes at the University of Exeter include a multidisciplinary group challenge project, which is what I'm going to be focusing on today. This student-centred module was designed with principles of IDEO and gold standard project-based learning and facilitates the application of core engineering theory to a real-world problem. Students apply IDEO design thinking as a design process to develop solutions throughout the project that they work on. So the students are put into groups between kind of 8 and 10 students. They work on, there's 2 different kind of gold standard project-based learning modules on the first year, and they work with the same groups. So this, the top image, you can kind of see the design process that we've based on IDEO, which for students, we take students through. So they have the kind of problem brief, they go through understanding the problem, ideation, concept design, development, prototyping, final design, and testing and solutions. And obviously they go back through this and they kind of loop back and forth as they go through the process. So why gold standard project-based learning and design thinking? So we really want to improve students' 21st century skills, kind of focusing on communication, collaboration, adaptability, critical thinking, problem solving, technological literacy, creative thinking and self-management. We really want to ensure our graduates are ready to go out into industry or to create their own businesses and kind of really set them apart from other universities. We want to develop student confidence and design skills through experiencing fail-fast techniques. We really want to push students to keep iterating and collaborating as a team. And you can see here this kind of design squiggle in the red down in the bottom. This is the kind of journey we take the students on. So we start with in their groups, they're really quite confused. They've got lots of different avenues they can go down in the design process and with their research. And they're kind of going back and forth, not really sure what way they want to focus. They then kind of go through the development a bit more, do some research, collaborate as a group, kind of share their research, what they found, and then they kind of start looking at different ideas, and again it becomes quite muddled and confused when they're kind of trying to work through that ideation process, and slowly through the process they then kind of gain clarity and at the end have a really good developed final solution. So students are inspired by industry guest speakers and experience industry related roles throughout the project, and again this image down the bottom is kind of why we are so passionate about gold standard project-based learning, because we believe students really kind of start thinking for themselves, really take the initiative with their learning, and they aren't limited by the kind of knowledge of us as lecturers. They can take their research and their ideas into a way that interests them, and they kind of can make connections between different modules and really apply that theory in a way that makes sense to them. So the module plan pre-pandemic, here you can see some images of our makerspace, which we had been hoping to launch, but we've had a few delays to that, but that will be launching in kind of September 2021. So the module had always been planned as blended with online lectures and talks from industry guests, combined with workshops and use of the makerspace. Individual student preparation was planned throughout online resources and face-to-face interactive tutorials on research skills, technical communication and 3D modelling. Iterative prototyping was essential to the project, starting from sketching and building up to card modelling, 3D printing, laser cutting and bloom foam modelling in the makerspace. Asynchronous project collaboration was planned using Mural with templates for research, ideation and video capture of the prototyping process, which they would go through as a group. We started the project with an authentic project launch that included industry guest speakers and a design sprint. And obviously when we initially planned this was all going to be done face-to-face, kind of on campus in the makerspace, but we had to make a quick switch due to the pandemic, as most people have. So the switch to online delivery due to a pandemic required adaptation of making activities to online prototyping. So we combined Zoom and Mural for a week-long design sprint. Before we started the major project, we really wanted to make sure that we could get students to experience this kind of prototyping. A lot of them had come from academic backgrounds where they're used to kind of exams and not getting hands-on with kind of materials, and that fell fast kind of ethos. They're not very afraid of failure. So we want to make sure that they understand that failure you're not marked right or wrong based on how well their product comes out. We're not looking at if it fails or not. So we're trying to just reinforce that. And the design sprint was a really kind of low pressure way of doing that. And it was a great way to kind of see how we could do it online and try out a few different things. So now I'm going to talk you through what is a design sprint. So a design sprint is typically a 5-day process to develop ideas to big challenges through ideating and lo-fi prototyping. Students worked in PBL groups to develop and design a lo-fi prototype of a wave energy harvesting solution. So this was based on their project brief, but it was a lot more open. So they had a kind of a gold standard project-based learning project brief that came from the technical modules so that their students could apply the theory. But this design sprint was kind of just an introduction to it, and we wanted them to be really innovative and really open their ideas out. So we kept it quite broad for the initial design sprint. As I mentioned earlier, the design sprint was not formally assessed. It was presented to staff and verbal feedback was given to students. It was part of the project launch that we had for Gold Standard Project-Based Learning, and it was started off with talks from industry and lots of information from the industry about ideas that were kind of being developed and things that had been successful in the past. Students were given daily tasks to complete as their groups, and they were given a mural template for each day of the design sprint. So why use a design sprint? I've explained what it is, so what's the point of it? So build students' creative confidence. A lot of students come from different backgrounds, and when we talk to them in kind of PBL sessions before this starts, they really aren't sure of themselves kind of creatively and don't consider themselves creative. So we want to open their eyes to see that they are creative and they have got ideas, and to kind of put this in this low pressure environment where they can kind of really explore sketching and kind of expressing their ideas visually, which they're not really used to. It encourages students to think quick and not focus on the tiny details of the project. It gets students collaborating and to start developing research and ideas quickly. It teaches students skills in collaboration and how to move forward with designs for a fair process. Obviously, in any group setting, it's going to have challenges, but we found that this kind of introducing this process gave them a way that they could kind of work through different people's ideas, give kind of constructive criticism, and move forward, merging different ideas and making sure everyone felt heard in the group as well. It gives students an experience of failing fast, not being overprotective of ideas and making quick kind of adaptations. And students can experience lo-fi prototyping, which again, a lot of them haven't experienced, and it really opened them up to what they could use just at home. Obviously, throughout the pandemic, it's been very difficult to get hold of materials. They haven't been able to get onto campus, so they have been able to just use what they have access to at home or on their kind of local shop or from online delivery, that sort of thing. And here's a little sprint of how we kind of laid the week out. So we had, as I mentioned, 5 days. It was split up over a weekend, so we had a little bit longer if they wanted to work over the weekend, but that wasn't kind of forced as part of it. But really they only had kind of 4 days, because the 5th day they kind of gave their presentations and presented their prototypes to us, and I'll show the outcomes with you later on. So the design sprint process. So the design sprint put the project into context. It was taking students through the IDEO design process online and allowing them to collaborate and practice online prototyping for their main project. Again, we didn't want them to kind of get to that main project and be really nervous about doing lo-fi prototyping and thinking it wasn't going to be good enough to explain their ideas. This process of mural icebreakers, ideating and sketching solutions to demonstrate ideas in low-risk, non-assessed activities really built students' confidence in creativity, failing fast, and online collaboration with their peers. Students were given daily tasks to complete as a group and were given a mural template for each day of design sprint. Obviously, as they'd not experienced a design sprint before, we felt it was quite good to give them that structure. They didn't have to use it if they had different ideas as a group, but it was just there for those students who weren't quite as confident to just kind of get started. They always had something to fall back on if they got a bit lost throughout that day. So teams were supported by myself through the process of lo-fi prototyping development on Zoom and Mural PBL support sessions. I was able to access all the mural boards so I could see the progress and ensure there was kind of any problems I could jump in with a group and have a quick meeting and see how they were getting on. And yeah, so the prototyping, they all completed using kind of personal 3D printers, 3D pens and simpler household materials and iterative testing and refinement. So we really encourage students to do kind of that divergent and convergent thinking. A lot of them hadn't experienced that before, so it was really good to take them through that process. And then there's a little Crazy Eights was one of the kind of tasks we gave students, and they really enjoyed this, and we saw this coming out a lot in their major projects, using that kind of Crazy Eights, really quick kind of ideation process. So here's just a couple of the outcomes of the mural templates, as I mentioned. So we kind of started off by giving students a plan over 5 days and giving them just a kind of guidance of some team roles that might be suitable for the task. So students then went away and kind of worked out where their expertise were, or what roles they might like to try. It might be that they haven't had experience in that role before and they wanted to try it out in this system to see if they kind of felt it suited them. And a few people kind of worked in the same tasks and the same roles to kind of support each other. Then as we went through the process, the next day was understanding the problem. There's a couple of different ways students approached this. Some of them kind of went and found out what was out there already, what companies were developing. And some of them kind of just started sketching from the off. They kind of had some real basic kind of ideas and kind of really started to develop them from there. And you can see Mural was a great platform for this because students could work across different time zones. They could really quickly download the app and take pictures of their sketches that they had at home or sketch on the screen. And lots of people could work on it at the screen at the same time, so it worked really well. So next they moved on to ideation. So this is when we kind of brought in the Crazy Eights, and we really encourage students to really try and get hands-on with their sketching here to kind of build that confidence and show them that it doesn't have to be a perfect finished technical drawing, but just doing a simple sketch is sometimes enough to demonstrate your ideas. And this really helped students who were lacking in confidence and the international students who sometimes struggled to kind of put into words what they were trying to explain. Just having this kind of real simple sketch really helped them. Then we moved on to kind of a concept design. So from that initial sketching, they chose one design they liked each. And then they were able to vote and kind of pick out bits that they liked on each other's designs. And it was quite good because we did speed critique. So people had to go and critique each other's design ideas. And it was really nice to see kind of how encouraging they were and how reflective they were and how they kind of took those ideas forward. Mural was really good because it has kind of voting features on there as well. So they've got kind of a dot voting system where students were able to kind of put different dots on the different ideas or different sections of an idea they liked, and that could be anonymous as well, which really helped with kind of students' confidence if they were a bit shy about speaking out. And then day 4, here you can see the kind of prototyping process that we've then developed. So a few students approached this in different ways. Some decided to kind of do it via YouTube, and then a few of the groups decided to carry on kind of with Mural for this. So students would kind of all create a little prototype or a small part of the prototype, and they then put a picture in for their group to see. They would then explain the kind of different elements that they had in their design, the kind of key parts of their design, and then they would merge their ideas together. So they would take different parts of different people's prototype, and then one person in the group would then assemble that where they were. So here you can see some of the outcomes. We were totally blown away by the kind of work the students created in such a short space of time. Students excelled in this environment, and some of the teams met socially distanced to combine prototype sections and test their complete prototypes. A lot of the groups created more than just one prototype. They kind of went through that iteration process with low-fi prototyping, kind of testing out different ideas in the physical form and making improvements. Other student groups collaborated purely online to build a group prototype and shared videos on YouTube. We believe this online collaborative prototyping experience has deepened students' learning to highlight and kind of overcome the challenges faced during international collaboration, and provided an application of appreciation of time zone and kind of cultural differences that we experienced in the pandemic more than we normally would, because people would be on campus. But obviously with international travel being restricted, we had to really work around that. As the student feedback included that they felt like they weren't creative before, but realised they were through this process. They were able to easily work through merging ideas and would have struggled to know how to do this without the framework that was provided. Being able to demonstrate an idea or concept on a 3D prototype really helped to see which parts of the design to take forward and would be successful and where issues were going to be. But it gave them a real insight into their main project and would have normally taken them a long time to understand. So here you can kind of see some of the outcomes. There's a wide variety of different things. You've got someone who's able to have a 3D printer at home, so they created this turbine. This was the top corner. You've got a group who created just stuff out of toilet rolls and cardboard, Amazon boxes and pencils that they had lying around. We also incorporate Lego Serious Play into our modules, so some of the students utilised that and created some kind of basic SolidWorks model accompanied by Lego. And then in the bottom you can see kind of the same idea but prototyped kind of moving forward. So they've got the first basic prototype and then they developed that and they actually took it onto a swimming pool and were able to kind of see how it worked. So what impact did this design sprint have on the main project? There's a noticeable difference in the projects between students who had engaged in the design sprint and those that hadn't. Groups used the design process and lo-fi prototyping skills to develop ideas and phono prototypes for their main project, and this was really successful. Obviously we weren't sure at the time how long the kind of lockdowns were going to be and how long travel restrictions were going to be in place, so we had to plan kind of open-ended at the time. So this design sprint really helped when we weren't able to get on campus and open the makerspace up. Students are still able to utilise this kind of lo-fi prototyping they had at home, but take it to that next level because it was a bigger project brief and a bigger kind of design that they created. Students will really take that lo-fi prototyping to the next level. So comments from the technical lecture team that they were blown away by the creativity and originality that students had shown in the outcomes of the main projects. Students successfully applied theoretical knowledge across the modules and produced outstanding results. And students really enjoyed the freedom to create prototypes from everyday objects. And here you can see just 3 groups of the outcomes. So you can see there's that in the middle, there's the prototype that they tested on water. They actually took that research and idea forward and applied that into their main kind of project brief. And then you had the bottom one has kind of got some 3D printing alongside a Lego platform. And then at the top you can kind of see cardboard and pasta modelling alongside modelling with a 3D pen as well. So you've just got the different varieties, and these were created by different people in their halls and their homes where they were. So future work, so we're going to be using a design sprint format for an engineering summer school project, which we're really looking forward to. Again, we're going to have lots of different students, all from a variety of backgrounds who aren't all engineers. Some are from the business school or haven't got any experience, haven't been to university. So we're really looking forward to kind of forming groups with them and seeing how it would work with different groups of people. We're going to refine a blended approach incorporating the makerspace of prototyping, which will be opening in September 21. And incorporating murals, we've really felt that was successful for students to be able to record their processes and to work through that ideation process and have a real clear outcomes and kind of process to go through. And we're going to be applying a similar approach to projects in the development of the second year of the engineering programme. And again, here's just a couple of outcomes from the main project now. So they've taken ideas from their design sprint and kind of move this forward in the main project. You can see here some kind of lo-fi prototyping and again using the Crazy 8s, using that concept design process that we are able to take the students through. Okay, so thank you everyone for listening. Here's our contact details if you want any more information. Thank you.